All right, welcome everybody to the video. We are reviewing the second half of the first season of Foundation. If you saw my first half of the season review, you'll know that I thought it was building momentum, took a little bit of time to get into it, and had lots and lots of hope that the second half here would really kick things off. So the first little part, I'll give a non-spoiler review, then we'll jump into spoilers, and we'll go down the rabbit hole and take a look at some things going on and some theories, potentially setting up a season 2. All right, so my non-spoiler review, it's great. Go watch it. That's really all there is to say. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. And really, why are you watching this if you haven't even seen the second half? All right, guys, spoilers. Let's get into it. All right, let's start this review, and let's start it with Empire, and specifically Brother Day. Lee Pace, again, like absolutely tremendous job on the show. And we get an episode where he goes on the pilgrimage, he walks, he's supposed to see a vision, and you actually, first off, even taking the trip, you can tell maybe Brother Day's thinking a little bit different than maybe his predecessors, because it's looking like he's, yes, he's going there to kind of squash the leader that they don't want elected, but you can tell his path might be a little bit potentially different, which that little creak in the door makes him a very interesting character. So he goes on this pilgrimage to prove a point, to the point where he, befriends a guy who spent his whole life savings just to get there, this old dude, this peasant who has no idea who he is. And you could see him like tag teaming and wanting, using this man and going back and forth just to finish, his pilgrimage, which was interesting to see, because normally he's just, I tower above everybody, bow down or you'll get disintegrated sort of thing. So it was definitely an interesting part of his character, and you almost think for a second he's changing. He gets to go to his vision. He obviously does not see it. He picks up some breadcrumbs from Demerizel and is able to essentially lie about his vision, gets the desired outcome he wants, and then at the end there of that episode, and when Demerizel was talking about how cold that must have been or how lonely it would be to go there and actually not see a vision, you could tell it really, really ate at him, and you could almost just see like the evil pouring out of him. So interesting moments there. So to kind of follow up on the Empire storyline, we get Brother Dawn, who has been, flirting with this girl. He's like basically plotting his escape. He's scared because he's genetically different. He's colorblind. Like all this stuff is happening, and it gets to the point where he's got to make his move. He finally makes it because Brother Dusk is on to him. And, when he reunites with his love, he's been double-crossed. And the scene for me was really, really cool. You get Brother Dawn, going against Brother Dusk, making a split. So you get the one betrayal. He goes down, finds the girl, and then all this stuff happens. And then they betray him, which I think you kind of got the feeling that was going to happen. Brother Dawn was this very, isolated, wishing for different things, and he seemed like very gullible and was capable of being manipulated, which is what ends up happening. So even that in its own right was a lot going on, because then they break down their plan on how the Seed of Rebels has had this in motion, swapping out the clones so they could take down Empire from within. And then literally just as they're getting that plan into motion and transferring the nanobots, Empire shows up. Brother Dusk brings the reinforcements. Shadow Master's with him, and we should have known, because Shadow Master, we saw in other scenes, he's been lurking around Brother Dawn and the girl in the shadows. So they were all over this, and it is quite the takedown. Again, it seemed like, so then you get the triple double cross kind of at the end there. So it seemed like a little bit much, but I don't know. I love the way it just went bam, 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 and hammered out all those storylines. It was good, and it was just, again, Empire, when they move in on something, are just so ruthless. It's cool to see. So Brother Dawn rescued, and then we have, so continuing Brother Day's storyline, he gets back, and Brother Dusk is for sure he's going to, turn him to ash. But he says he's changed, and he almost says, the psychotherapy that Henry Seldon was, stating, like all that stuff. And then on his walk, and he thinks, we can change a little bit. So he's going to, it sounds like, save him. And you can see, and this is where, prior to this scene happening, my thought process is we haven't had anything with Demerizel yet, and there's been little breadcrumbs of something's going on with her. And right up to that scene, I had an inkling that she's actually been the leader of the rebellion to take down Empire Within. They said it's been going on for longer years. She's been alive forever. She's been since Cleon the First, and she's had access to the DNA databanks and everything like that. So she's prime suspect for the one who's actually behind this. And you can tell that it appeared she really cared for Brother Don, and he cowers in her, like almost like it's his mother. And she's like, don't worry, as the two older brothers are fighting. And then she snaps his neck, which, again, she says it's her programming. She's supposed to serve the original Cleon. But I can't help think that her plan is starting to get sniffed out, and she had to eliminate some evidence. So that is my theory for what's going on with her. I think she's part of, again, I have not read the books, but she obviously, but I believe she's very involved in the takedown of Empire. Again, her race of androids were completely wiped out as well. So I don't know if there's, 100-year-old, however long ago it was. There's some, revenge going on behind those eyes, potentially. Interesting. There's a lot. And then she rips off her face at the end, which is kind of crazy to see. So a lot of stuff. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, was she ripping her face off? She's probably ripping her face off in rage, right? Her plan just got busted. So that's what I'm going with. She's going to be the one behind it all. But again, just to put a final bow on Brother Day, he showed that kind of humanity on the pilgrimage and then went right back to being ruthless. When he had the girl who set everything up, and he's talking about, we went back, your genetic family, all your friends, the girl you lost your virginity, everything that she's had any affiliation with or loved, he literally, with the snap of his hands, kills everybody, again, showing how ruthless he can be. But after that speech with Don about, I look to you as a father, blah, blah, he then talks about how he looked to him as a son, and you can see he genuinely was like, I'm going to save this. Like, we're changing a little bit. So you see some cracks here in Brother Day a little bit, which makes him like, I don't know. It's to me, it's a fascinating character because for example, when they busted in to save Dawn, I was actually cheering for Empire. But then when you see him do some of the other things you do, wow, he's a ruthless piece of, you know what. So very, very great character. So multi-layered, and you don't really know which direction he's going to go, with how stoic and the persona and everything he has to put on as being, Empire and Brother Day. All right, so moving on, let's talk about some other cool stuff. The stuff on Terminus, we obviously left it in climactic battle. There's a ship that they're trying to get to, the Invictus. They, bring everyone up there to fix it. I thought that storyline was all right. So yeah, we got some cool scenes on the Invictus. I liked, the jacking in to the ship. It kind of reminded me of Star Trek Discovery with the Spore Drive, to be honest. And the story of it kind of jumping, being lost, being a powerful weapon, and they're trying to bring that up, and that'll be the flagship of the rebellion. I like all that. They defeat the Huntress, and so I guess the big turning point is Salvor eventually opens the vault, and who is inside that vault? None other than Harry Seldon. And you know what that means? We get more Jared Harris, which is a great thing. Jared Harris is great. And, we get a quick little thing about what happened to him. He ingested some special pill that turned his body into its base elements and used the coffin he went out in space in and reformed this crazy scientific, futuristic, indestructible vault that had a self-defense and everything. Again, little out there, but hey, that's what it is. And it happened to get to Terminus, stay in that shape until finally awoken and Harry comes walking out. Again, that little weird, that whole part, but Harry walking out was definitely a cool moment. And he's like, look at everything I predicted. It's coming true again, except that Gale isn't there. And he's like, who are you? And it's, obviously it's Salvor. And, he gives them their next instructions for forming a new society of all these people that once hated each other, you know, getting together for the greater good, yada, yada, yada. So kind of cool that it gives us a little bit of direction for the future. So something I know people have been speculating since pretty early in the season, and if you followed the breadcrumbs, it only made sense. We finally got confirmation that Salvor is actually the child of Gale and Raish. Her parents just took that egg, carried her, gave birth to her, and raised her, but she is genetically Gale's child, which explains her abilities and stuff like that and why she's interacting with the Vault and Harry and seeing the visions. So at the end, she decides to leave for Gale, has a big emotional goodbye with her mom, her boyfriend, and the way they're talking, it's like, man, like, you know, seems like she's going to be gone for a little bit of time here. And sure enough, we get 134 years later, I believe it was, and Gale still hasn't been found, lands on her home planet, and she sees the crashed ship in the bottom and then rescues Salvor from the bottom. So Salvor went into cryo freeze, whatever they call it in this world, and essentially got saved by her mom. So that leaves a lot of questions. We are now our two main characters. I'd say these are the two main characters, Salvor and Gale. I know Gale hasn't been in it as much, but I believe she's the narrator, so technically she's been in it a lot. Are now both together in the future. I don't know if we're going to get time jumping back and forth between the two timelines, or we're going to be moving to the future in season 2. I don't know. But considering all the stories that still had left to play with Empire, I'm assuming we're going to be going back and forth in time. So yeah, that was the main plot points for the season. I thought they did a lot and covered a lot of ground in the last 5 episodes, and they were great. Before I give this a score, just a couple more points to point out that I thought were interesting. When Salvor's dad's talking to her, they mention about how big the planetary systems and stuff like are, and he mentions, Earth is potentially the origin of all humans. So the human race is quite spread out in this particular story. So it'd be interesting to see if we get any, not that they'll go full Battlestar Galactica and try to find Earth, but it opens the door a little bit for some potential future interesting stuff. The other thing I thought was the ships in this show are very cool. The Thespis, I can't remember what those little fighter things were called, but anyways, you could slave ships to people, you remote control them and stuff like that. They look cool. The way they jump looks really cool and unique compared to other shows. As a big spaceship, fanboy, I wish we got a little bit more of it, and I have hope we will in the future, because they are teasing that this new society will need to eventually go to war against the Empire, and they do have the Invictus now, and they're going to try to build more or similar ships, right? So they're going to try to be a rising power to combat empires. So maybe we will get some crazy space battles in the future. I'm looking forward to that storyline thread potentially playing out that way. So yeah, and I don't really have too many things that didn't work for me. I had a lot in the first half of the season. I'd say maybe episodes 6, 7 didn't quite carry the momentum of what episode 5 kind of did. I don't know. I found myself not as glued to it as I was, but as the last 2-3 episodes, though, really, really ramped up for me and were really quite enjoyable. I'm going to give the second half of this season an 8.5 out of 10, and I believe I was 7.3 on the first half. So we'll call this a 7.9 overall for season 1. I ended up quite enjoying this series. I'm very intrigued to where it goes next, and I hope season 2 happens. I haven't seen any confirmation either or. Let me know in the comments if they have announced that. Hope it happens. And let me know in the comments, did you enjoy the show? If you're a book reader, without giving spoilers, how did season 1 live up to the books in your opinion? I'd love to know. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you all in the next video.